Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Office Hours with Jess. Today, I will be showing you all how to do very, very basic things in R, as in opening a data set and running some very, very basic code, and kind of overall just sort of how R works. So what I do love about R is that it is actually free for everyone to download. You just have to go to the R website and you can download R and then RStudio. And then once you have both of those on your computer, you'll want to open RStudio. And that's how you'll get to this look and this page or this app opening where you'll type in your code, upload your data set, and it'll give you all your output. But it is free, which is why I think it's a great resource to have and why I think it's great for students to learn. And again, this is something you can put on your resume and CV and is a very marketable skill as you move on out into the real world, finding a job or going through grad school. And I've been also wanting to make a video like this for a while. I am not an R expert. I have had to learn through much trial and error and deep Googling, but I'm here now. I'm teaching students how to use it, which is exciting, and I wanted to create this very short, very introductory video. Now, the first thing I want to show you all is how to even just get data into R. I remember when I was learning SAS for the first time when I was an MPH student, I couldn't even get the data set in, and it was the most frustrating thing. And I was working on a take-home final, and it took me 2 hours just to get the data set in. And I was like, this should not be so complicated. I need to learn how to do this better. So I know that that's like the first step, but the very important step is you can't do anything if your data is not in R. So there are many ways to import data sets, but if you have a file that you already know where it is on your computer, you can just import the data set. So if you go over to this right side over here where your environment is, there's an import data set drop down. If you click that, it gives you a lot of options. So depending on what type of data file you have, usually you'll be uploading something from Excel if it's a .csv, which is what most of my files are. Sometimes if you have a data set from a different software, it can also upload it from that software type data set too. So sometimes if you have an SPSS file or a SAS file, R can also read those in as well. But today I'm going to show you how to upload a .csv, which I think is the most common way that I've received data. Okay, so let me show you how to import that data set. You'll see I have a bunch of stuff here. That's because I have a lot going on in my R, but I'll show you how to import that .csv. So you go to from text and you can, there's base and reader, either will work. Reader is one option. So if you go to reader and you hit browse, find that mtcars.csv data set wherever it's saved for you. So for me, it's saved in this R folder that I have. You'll open that. It's going to take a moment to think, and then it's going to put in all of your data, show you that, and then you hit import. And there you go. Your mtcars data set is now inside of R. Now, this upper left-hand white box is where you type in all of your code. Down here in your console below it, that's what's going to show you all of your output and your responses. You'll see what that looks like. And then if you create any plots, that'll show up here on this bottom right-hand square. This also shows you a bunch of other things, files, packages. You can ask for help and it'll explain a bunch of code, but that will also just auto-populate things as necessary. So, okay, I've showed you how to upload the data set. Now let me just show you some basic workings of R. So let's say you want to pull on this data set and call it out. You just type in the name of the data set, MT cars. Now R is case sensitive. So I'll show you what that means in a moment, but you have to type everything is exactly how it is. So as you can see, MT cars here in the global environment is all lowercase. So make sure that's the case. Now let's look at our data set. And this is something I always tell all of my students is always look at your data before you just start diving into the code and just take a look, scroll through, see what kind of variables you have. Here in the global environment, it will tell you that it has 32 observations of 11 variables. So that gives you a sense of the big picture of what's in the data set. And then you can actually click, like if you double click on it, it just pops up the data set to show you. So you can see it has MPG. This is about cars, so like miles per gallon and all these other variables. So let's just take a look at the MPGs, the miles per gallon. of our empty cars data set. If we just wanted to take a look at all of those variables, empty cars, it's always data set, and then you put a $sign. And then when you put the $sign, you can pull a specific variable out of that data set. So we're going to look at MPG here. And then to run the code, I have a MacBook, but it's Command Enter. You can also hit run up here, and then it'll run the code. And now it just shows you all of the variables of the miles per gallon of all 32 observations. Now, let me show you what I mean by R is case sensitive. So if you type in MT cars, all like capitalize M, let's say you do that on accident, $sign MPG, you run that, you're going to get an error. It's going to say, we don't know what MT cars is because you capitalize the M. So do make sure that you always pay attention to your cases because R is very case sensitive. Another little trick I like to use, if you don't want to type in MT cars every time you want to call the data set, thankfully this is a short data set name, but let's say you wanted to just call your data or dat. I usually call my data dat. You can use this assign function, which is the caret pointing to the left and then a dash. That little assign arrow. Now everything to the right of this is going to be assigned to the dat. So now it's like replacing or like an equal sign. So now if you run that, every time you type in dat, it basically means empty cars. So if I run dat $sign MPG again, you'll get the same thing over here on the bottom. So again, the console down here is showing you all of the output of your code. Now, let's show some other functions that I use quite commonly in R. So the next is table and prop table. This is another great way to just quickly summarize the data that you have. So this works by just typing in table, all lowercase, then you open the parentheses. When you open a parentheses, it'll always create the ending for you too, just to make sure you always open and close it. So your cursor will be in the middle so you can just start typing. So let's say I want to know what values are in the MPG variable and how many times do they appear. So if you run that and go down here in the console, you'll see, okay, there were two people that had 10 point, or not two people, probably two cars that had 10.4, one observation with 13.3. So the numbers 2 and 1, like this number below, is the number of times that MPG number appears, and the MPGs are all the like 10.4, 3.3, etc. That's to get the count. If you want to get the proportion of each variable option, prop table, and then you open the parentheses again or create the parentheses. And this time you actually want to just take everything you did all the way to table. So, and put that inside of the second parentheses after prop table. So it's now prop table, table, and then your dat $sign MPG. This, if you run that, will give you all of the percentages or the proportion, that's why it's called prop table, of each of those values. Now, this is probably hard to read because MPG is a continuous variable. There's a lot of different numbers in MPGs. So you might want to use mean and standard deviation rather than seeing the counts of all the different numbers. So simply enough, with R, you can use this mean function, open the parentheses, type in dat $sign MPG again, because that's the variable from the dataset dat, which represents empty cars, run that, and then you get the mean. So that is the mean number of miles per gallon of that variable in your data set. Now, if you want to look at variation, you type in SD, and then inside the parentheses, you put dat $sign MPG again. Same thing, you're calling the data set $sign variable name, you run that, and then you get the standard deviation. So you did it, you coded in R, you calculated some means, you did some tables and prop tables. Like these are probably the functions I use most common, always to just observe all of my initial data and get a general sense of what the numbers are in my data set. So this is where I will wrap up my video on R today. Again, this was super basic, just very like how to get the data set in, run a few lines of code. If this was interesting to you and you want more videos like this, let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on another episode of Office Hours with Jess in R.